my general views on Trump have never changed, okay? So you might not realize this, but I had dealings with Donald Trump ages ago, before he was ever a presidential candidate.
It comes in denim. It comes in denim. It comes in denim. It comes in denim. Denim, what do bananas have to do with denim?
I'm crazy enough to take on Batman, but the IRS? No, thank you.
Mr. Magoo's eye doctor. The one thing that's a weird piece of news is that there is a buzz or a rumor coming out of all places, Naughty Dog, all right? Now you might say, Naughty Dog? Like they completely fell off after Last of Us 2. They were supposed to make an entire multiplayer game based around The Last of Us. That got canceled. They're supposedly making this intergalactic game, but where is it? We have no idea, and there's no information about when it's coming out yet, and it looks woke. So, who really cares? It's a good question. But the rumor that came out this morning about Naughty Dog is that they have decided to actually make a Last of Us Part 3. Firstly, you have to wonder, what would it be about? The continuation of the plotline of Ellie and Abby going their separate ways? Maybe. Not sure. All right. But the thing is, since The Last of Us 2 released, things have changed. Okay? When The Last of Us 2 released in 2020, the world was a different place. We were in COVID lockdowns. The Black Lives Matter movement was hugely prominent in social media and human culture. Okay? Lots of things have been pushed to the liberal front. But it's now 2026, and in the last 6 years, there has been a polarizing pendulum shift from the left all the way to the right. Meaning, games that attempt to be woke, like The Last of Us 2 most definitely attempted to do, aren't doing well anymore. In fact, they are failing. They are completely flopping. So, is Naughty Dog going to actually attempt this again? And are they thinking that by the time that they finish The Last of Us Part 3, that maybe the pendulum will be swinging back left? It very well could be, because these games don't get made overnight. It could be another 5 years for this game to come out, and by 2031, maybe everything will have swung back again. Okay? But here's the funny part about all of this, all right? The piece that people seem to be stumbling over is that the leak or the news rumor is that The Last of Us 3 will be coming out. However, Naughty Dog does have 2 other projects that they're working on first that will come out before Last of Us 3. The first being Intergalactic, which we all know. They're already making that one, so we know that that one's coming out first. But also, apparently, they're making Uncharted 5. Uncharted 5. That's mind-blowing and head-scratching at the same time. Why? Well, Uncharted 4 ended on a high note, a positive end for the series. Essentially, Nathan Drake and Elena, they ride off into the sunset as a family. They have a daughter now who they're teaching about archaeology and things like that. And it just seems like that was the perfect way to end it. Was there Uncharted content afterward? Yes, but it was a standalone DLC featuring 2 of the side characters going on an adventure together, and it purposefully left Nathan Drake out of it because that made sense. He's already had his epilogue story, per se, okay? So, Uncharted 5 sounds very bizarre to me. You know what this reminds me of? Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny or whatever. We already had your happy ending. Did you see Crystal Skull? He got married. That was the happy ending that everyone wanted. Why is there another movie? Why are you ruining the story and the lore of this character? What is going on? Okay? But even more confusing about all of this is that all of this news is not in line with what actually has been going on with Neil Druckmann and what he's been saying in recent years. Allow me to explain. So 2-3 years ago, The Last of Us Season 1 released on HBO Max, and it was critically acclaimed. It blew up in popularity. Everyone was talking about it. Oh my God, what a great adaptation of a game into a television show, you know, shaking the industry. Wow, they finally made a good video game TV show for the first time ever, right? Now, in reality, let's be honest here, the reason that The Last of Us Season 1 was good is because it was based on The Last of Us Part 1, the first game. You know, the one Neil Druckmann didn't write. That's why it was good. And to be honest, every single time that Druckmann put his fingers into the plot and changed it for the show, i.e. the entire episode that was about the guy who was a side character for one chapter, now having an entire episode about his gay relationship with another guy that he met in this zombie apocalypse and how they survived until finally one of them died and he was the survivor later on. It has nothing to do whatsoever with the plot of The Last of Us. And he decided to interject that again into the show for his woke vibes and his leftist agendas, okay? That stuff didn't really shine as well because it didn't make sense. But everything that he stuck to the plot of Last of Us 1 for worked well, and that's why the show was so praised. So, basically, after that first season released, he went into overdrive trying to produce and make The Last of Us Season 2. And when he did that, he basically lost focus on game development. And in fact, during interviews at this time frame, he had said, I think basically this next game that I'm going to make is my last one. I'm feeling burnt out on games. I don't really want to make games anymore. I think I want to be like a media guy. I want to make shows and movies and things like that. He thought that because of the success of The Last of Us Season 1, that he was going to break into Hollywood as some kind of either a director, writer, producer, whatever. Okay? Well, the funny part about that was, it couldn't have been further from what really happened. Hollywood rejected him. He tried to go to red carpet premieres. He tried to be part of the discussion of up-and-coming, you know, directors and stuff. Hollywood did not like this guy at all. Okay? They shunned him. They did not want to associate him. They did not want to hire him for any work or anything. Basically, they were like, this guy is an outsider, and we could tell he's a poser trying to get in with us, and we don't like him. So basically, what happened was, 2-3 years, he's trying to break his foot into the industry, can't do it, so he just focuses on Last of Us 2, and in the meantime, he completely cancels the Last of Us multiplayer game. Despite the fact that game developers have come out and outright said it was close to being completed, he just gave up on it and canceled the whole thing. So all those years that people were looking forward to it, he kept promising it, and in fact, it's a broken promise, because if you actually remember, The Last of Us 1 had multiplayer. And when The Last of Us 2 was coming out, we were also promised it would have multiplayer. But then, only like 6 months before the release of the game, it was announced the multiplayer is being dropped. It will not be part of this release, but he's going to make a full-on multiplayer game later, only for it to be canceled. So it's broken promise after broken promise, you see? So Last of Us 2 comes out, flops. Way less views than Season 1, okay? Critically panned, bad writing, bad plot, people making fun of the actor. Why? Because the actor who plays Ellie, now it's come to find out, wasn't just a girl when they filmed Season 1. She's an actress who actually has a physical condition where her body isn't really growing or aging. So she endlessly looks like a little girl. And she always will look like a little girl for her whole life, pretty much. So Season 1, it fit, because that was supposed to be little girl Ellie. But Season 2 was supposed to be young adult Ellie, right? In her 20s or whatever. And she looks exactly the same. So it's a little girl running around murdering adults, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. It's absolute nonsense. Okay, so everyone just completely made fun of it, destroyed this thing, saying, what a horrible show. So there is a Season 3 coming, only because they didn't finish the plot of The Last of Us 2 in that season. So there's only one more season coming, and they're outright saying that's going to be it. Like, the show didn't do so well in season 2, there's no way they're going to extend it past season 3. This will be the third and final season for The Last of Us show. So, why am I talking about all this? Well, because as I said, Neil Druckmann was saying in interviews just a couple years ago, I'm burnt out on games. This multiplayer game will be my last one, and then I'm moving on. But what happened was Hollywood rejected him, and The Last of Us Season 2 flopped miserably. So because of that, guess what? He's back. Now we have Uncharted 5 coming out, apparently, and then The Last of Us 3. And this never would have happened if this guy had gotten into Hollywood. So it just shows, sadly, this guy has no passion for what he actually does. He just wants to be prominent in some way. He wants to be known as a big shot. That's why he's doing it. Because if he had passion, he never would have canceled his multiplayer game. He never would have tried to get into Hollywood to begin with. Sad. This guy's got a giant head, always has. And now he's essentially going to bring down everything that's been created by Naughty Dog. Because now he's going to continue Uncharted. Well, guess what? I have zero faith that this guy is going to make a good Uncharted 5. Zero. I have absolutely no belief in my head that this guy could actually make an Uncharted game that's worth playing on his lonesome. You got to remember with Uncharted 4, that was a game that was more than half done. Then he fired the woman who was in charge of the Uncharted franchise, or she left, or both. It's unclear because of an NDA. No one actually knows what happened there. And then he took what she had already done and retooled it into what he made into Uncharted 4. Meaning Uncharted 5 will be the first time he'll be making a game from the ground up himself as the director. Based on his track record, do you really think that it's going to be good? Hiravash in the YouTube chat just said it. He says, Uncharted 5 probably will now be based around Nathan's daughter, and watch, he'll kill off Nathan. Yeah, I would believe that. I would believe that in Uncharted 5, it starts off with the daughter and him, and then Nathan gets killed. The most popular character in the franchise, right? The strong male lead, kill his ass, so we can have a teenage girl as the lead of the Uncharted franchise moving forward for his own agenda. I would not be shocked whatsoever if that's what happens. Seriously. So, anyway. Yeah. Interesting news. So, yeah, here's the thing, though. And here's what my belief is. Intergalactic. Okay? When is it coming out? We don't know yet. Right? It doesn't actually have a solid release date. But the thing is, times have changed. Right? Gaming has changed. Culture has changed. People are not looking for woke games anymore. And the ones that are coming out, few and far between, they're not doing very well. They end up for a very small audience. And yes, they can usually find an audience, but they're not resonating with the mainstream gamers anymore. The mainstream gamers are making fun of these games online, tearing them a new butthole. And even those that manage to be successful, to some extent, are not reaching the levels of success as things before. For example, Ghost of Yokai. Or Yotai. Ghost of Yotai, right? Where it's basically the same game as Ghost of Tsushima, only they swapped the protagonist to be a woman, and apparently, from what I'm going to understand, has a few things in it that are a little bit left-leaning, but not too many. But basically, it was an attempt to swap it out and do the same game twice, but now have it lean a little bit that way. And guess what? Did it do well? It did, but not as well as the first game. Didn't win awards, not in the discussion anymore, swept under the rug as if it never existed. That's what's happening with these kind of games. So, I'm curious, what's going to happen when this intergalactic game comes out? I mean, they're putting all their eggs in one basket right now. They have nothing else happening. Like I said, the order is Intergalactic, Uncharted 5, Last of Us 3. Well, if Intergalactic doesn't do well, I wouldn't count on Uncharted 5 or Last of Us 3. I'm just saying, like, they don't have anything going for them right now. The show has tanked, and they're only making a season 3, so it's not a cliffhanger ending with no true ending. And they already kicked him off the show. Something I forgot to mention here. They kicked him off the show. They literally kicked Neil Druckmann off the show and said, we don't want you making Last of Us TV show anymore because season 2 sucked. So he's done, and they got someone else finishing the show for him. So, yeah, for me, I hear all this news and I'm like, man, gaming has changed. Because it used to be, hey, a great game is coming out from this tried and true intellectual property, and we all love it. It's like, wow, we get excited for games. Oh, we can't do that anymore. Right? We can't. Everything has to have politics interjected into it. Everything has to have egos interjected into it. Everything has to have drama. Why can't we just have good games? It's a good question, isn't it? What happened to just being able to trust certain companies with pumping out high-quality games that we know are going to be worth our dollar every year? Seems like these games are few and far between these days, right? In the very least, with a company like Capcom, the games that they're coming out with these days, such as Resident Evil Requiem, they seem to still be hitting it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they seem to be trustworthy. But I think Capcom these days is the exception to the rule. For every Capcom, right, we've got Bethesda, right, or BioWare. Companies that used to pump out great games, and now they're just pumping out schlock or crap. It's like, what happened? How the mighty have fallen. Just give me a good game. I used to be able to love everything they did, and now we can't do that anymore. So I hear the news, oh, Naughty Dog's going to be making Last of Us 3, and I'm like, oh, Last of Us 3 after 2, I don't know. Oh, by the way, that's after Uncharted 5. I'm like, Uncharted 5? No. No. Anyway, so that's really the only game news I have to talk about today. I figured, let's get the topic out there and discuss it for a little bit before we jump into other stuff and we chill for a bit, okay? I feel the pendulum has swung too far onto the other side now, and it's gotten silly. It's not just woke games that are being rejected, but any game that stars a woman or a black person is instantly branded woke by outrage bait YouTubers, and then it's rejected even if it's good. I'm going to agree with you there. Because as I've told people, I'm not like conservative right, and I'm not like woke left. I'm more in the middle, and I just want to enjoy games. So for me, there's nothing worse than I'm going to start a game today, and immediately before I've even booted the game, I got people yelling at me in chat, oh, this game is woke, this game is crap, this game sucks, because wait, what are you talking about? Are we playing it yet? Like, have you even seen a moment of it? Or do you just believe everything you hear online because you like to join hate mobs to feel like you're a part of something? Right? Can we just judge a game on its own merits? And, you know, for me, the game last year where that outright happened was South of Midnight, where I started playing the game, and yes, the protagonist was a young black woman. That's true. Okay? And yes, it was set in, what, like the bayous of Louisiana, you know? So Creole and that kind of culture or whatever. And it was interesting art style. The gameplay felt to me more like a throwback to the PS2 era of platformers and combat games and stuff like that. Like, you know, Ratchet and Clank and Jack and Daxter and stuff like that. I enjoyed the 2-3 hours of it that I played. The entire time I'm playing, the chat is screaming, this game is woke, this game is leftist, this game is liberal, this game is crap, stop playing it, we're not going to watch it, we're not going to support it, we reject it. And I'm like, we can't even just enjoy games anymore, huh? Everything has to be this agenda. Everything has to be one way or the other. Why? Why have we completely inundated and permeated life with politics and culture wars? Why can't we just enjoy fucking video games at face value? I just don't get it. It drives me bonkers. So I'm with you there. $2 tipper, anonymous tipper. I'm with you. I'm not saying that I am completely to the one side or the other side. I'm not saying, oh, you know, every game should not have any kind of, you know, topic that's discussing diversity or, you know, even liberal agendas and things like that. They're a part of life. The difference is doing it in a way that's reasonable, doing it in a way that's realistic, and doing it in a way that's not preachy and trying to shove something down your throat. I don't care if a character is gay, trans, black, or another minority. I don't care. How does that affect the game? It really doesn't. And if it's written into the game as a natural part of the game, that character just exists because in real life, those people also exist and they're to be accepted as part of society as a norm, right? It's fine that they're part of life, right? So why then do a lot of these games, instead of acting like this is just a normal thing, turn that into the focus of everything in the game, right? That's the focal point. of the discussions of the game. I'll give you an example. Life is Strange 2. Anyone remember that? A lot of people have forgotten it because it's the Life is Strange plot that has nothing to do with Max and Chloe, so everyone kind of swept it under the rug and forgot it ever existed. But Life is Strange 2 is about two Hispanic brothers, one of which is discovered to have superpowers that he can't really control properly, right? The story starts off as, oh, we're kind of on the run because he has superpowers and he's accidentally destroying stuff. The game literally degrades into an ultra preachy game where everyone who's white in the game is a racist. I'm not kidding. And in fact, there's one white character in the game who's not racist, and he's an ultra liberal writer for some like publication, like he's like an indie writer or something. You know what I'm saying? That's it. Every other white person in the game is like a bad person. Oh, we all hate Hispanics and we're prejudiced against them and we can't trust them. What? And the problem is when you make a game like that, okay, you might have people who believe it. There might be people who might play that game and be like, oh, so all white people are racists. Just innately, they can't help it. They're just racist. That's not true. And that's messed up that the game represented it like that, because then people will think that that's fact when it's not. So that's what I mean. Could there have been a plot in there where there was like a racist person and they had to deal with them? Sure. But do we need to have 5 episodes where every episode it's hammered into us that white people are racist against Hispanics? No. We didn't need that. In fact, that was more hurtful than helpful in any case. Because it's not representative of reality. Okay? So that's what I mean. You can have these plots where you have these topics discussed as long as it's done intelligently and responsibly. And I think that's the big word here. Responsibility. Okay? In reality, in life, variety is the spice of life. Diversity is a part of life that's very important. If everyone were exactly the same, do you know what would happen? Life would be boring. If everything was the same, if everything was homogenized, if everyone was the same color, and if everyone was exactly acting the same, looking the same, being the same, life would suck. Really. It's in that diversity and that difference and that variety that things get interesting. Okay? And every day when you go down the street, you probably see different people of different races, different creeds, different genders, different everything, right? Different ideologies. And that's cool. As long as we all agree to get along and not murder each other over it, I think that's fine, right? So why is it that when you play a video game, it's always got to be one way or the other way? You know what I'm saying? We don't need this to be the focal point of games today, but it seems like game developers are intent on making it the focal point. And that doesn't mean ultra left or ultra right is correct. Neither are. If you see my point here. You could have a game where you have different factions and maybe some of them believe an ideology one this way and one that way. And you know what it could be? You decide who you want to side with. Not the game is preachy to you, telling you that ideology is the good and right one. That ideology is the bad one. And if you don't agree with that, shame on you. You're a degenerate. When did video games become this? I thought the whole idea was choice, freedom, that you could do it and play it how you want, and maybe even go both ways to see different outcomes, and that's kind of the variety and interest and entertainment value of the game. Not, oh, we've decided for you that this was the moral choice, and if you didn't make it, screw you. There you go. Starting over here, Broden says, this crap was never an issue. We had all humor and reality. These issues are not something you're born with. It's taught. My friends were friends. Color, gender, and religion were never an issue. You're right. When I was growing up, I was in a multicultural, diverse neighborhood. Okay? I was white. My next door neighbor was white. One house over, Puerto Rican. Another house over, black. We were all friends. We didn't give a shit. We didn't care. We really didn't care. Who gives a shit? When you're a kid, you don't even understand. Difference of skin, what the fuck does that mean? Right? No one knows. Everyone just wants to hang out. Yeah, I agree with you. You know, these things we grow into them, we get taught into it, rather than it being part of your natural way of things. It may not even be the case that a game that's coming out is liberal, right? But basically what they'll do is try to shoot down anything that's not now in line with their own way of thinking or ideology immediately, because now that's the thing to do, right? Cancel everything that even has a taste of what could be considered liberal or leftist, which also is wrong, for the record. I don't know why everyone thinks that essentially, how can I say it? Why everyone thinks that it's my way or the highway, that it's either got to be all the way over here or all the way over here. There's no middle ground. We can't get along, right? I just don't get it. That's why I'm nervous about Uncharted 5, because I love Uncharted. I've liked every single game Uncharted 1 to 4. Now, the franchise will be solely in the hands of Neil Druckmann, the guy who single-handedly destroyed Last of Us. So, is he going to do the same thing with Uncharted? I hope not. Jay Freezebees is very upset. He says, this is such an old convo. You losers think you're breaking new ground? This conversation has been done to death. Talk about something actually fun. All right, let's do it. Jay Freezebees, thanks for $5. Let's talk about something different. In fact, let's see what Jay Freezebees wants to talk about today. Go ahead, Jay Freezebees, you got the floor. You tell us all what you would like to talk about right now. Let's hear it. No, he's not saying anything now. He's not answering. All right, the $2 tipper just said, I think the best way to do it is when it's like an interpretive version of the universe, like in X-Men and Mutants, or Dragon Age with the mages, and how you can side with the mages or the Templars in Dragon Age, or Mass Effect with the Krogan and the Genophage, or Cerberus or Prohuman, etc. Well, yeah, like here's the thing. There is a way to creatively interject these kind of social issues, but not make it all so serious, right? Like, you can make a representation of something like that in a fantasy setting where people are forced to choose, but then you could choose the other side, see what happens, and then you can make a decision for yourself based on the game universe and its lore, rather than saying, oh, here's a game, and by the way, it's the actual issue of real life shoved down your throat, and if you don't make the choice that we told you is the good one, you're a bigot. Like, huh? Which is what Neil Druckmann literally said when people were criticizing The Last of Us 2. He was saying things like, oh, if you're criticizing Last of Us 2, you're a bigot. What an idiot. We have no one to blame but these ideologies creating this hypersensitivity to video games, because people recoil more easily these days because they don't trust devs' intentions anymore. You're right. When it used to literally be, hey, you play a game and you're going to have some challenging stuff in it, but that's okay. That's part of the fun experience. It's not the end-all, be-all of the game, and it's certainly not going to shove it down your throat. But now when you've seen 10, 20 games from big, high-profile studios that tried to shove this stuff down your throat, now you're hypersensitive to it, right? Like, oh, again? Yeah, again, we're tired of it. We don't want it. I don't want ultra-leftist morals. I don't want ultra-conservative morals. I just want to play a fucking game and have a good time, right? The best thing Naughty Dog could do is to make Uncharted 5 with no fucking agendas. Just make it a fun adventure game that stars Nathan and his daughter, and maybe, yeah, by the end of the game, his daughter picks up the reins as the adventurer, and Nathan truly does retire, a passing of the torch story. No liberal bullshit, and no conservative bullshit. Just have it be a good game. But instead, I almost guarantee you, if Neil's at the helm, which he will be, that he's going to try to do this shit again. I've had enough. We just don't care anymore. Oh, sorry, I thought that's how your stream was new. You thought that you could just say, hey, I want to change the entire topic of what's being discussed, and I would just say, okay. I mean, if you want to, go ahead, present a topic, and we'll see if we want to talk about it. We are building up good attendance for Crimson Desert, for the record. My general views on Trump have never changed, okay? So you may not realize this, but I had dealings with Donald Trump ages ago, before he was ever a presidential candidate. I used to work for a helicopter company, okay? And our company dealt with aftermarket care for helicopters. Meaning, let's say you were a company that owned a helicopter and you flew it and did missions with it and stuff like that. Let's say your helicopter wore out. One of the blades is damaged or worn out. Something, a bearing is messed up. It needs maintenance or whatever. That's what my company would do. So you would send us your broken part, or sometimes you'd even have a place where we would maintenance, do maintenance on these helicopters and stuff like that. So Donald Trump's company had a helicopter that they flew all around New York City. Okay? They dealt with our company. All right? So here's how Donald Trump did business. He would demand, claiming that he was more important than everybody else and that he should get special treatment. All right? I should get the blade first before anybody else, even though I'm 10th in line. I should be first in line because I'm Donald Trump. All right? That's how he acted. Then you would eventually give him what he wanted. He would get the part. He would get the maintenance. He would get whatever it is. And then he would fail to pay for it. He would be overdue 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. He just wouldn't pay. To which case his account would actually go into default and we'd say, we're not going to do business with you anymore because you're not paying us for the work we did. Then he would come back when he needed something and be like, our aircraft is AOG, aircraft on the ground, because we critically need a part. We can't fly. We need it immediately. And we'd be like, sorry, you didn't pay your bill. If you pay your bill, maybe we consider doing business with you. Then, because he needed something, he would pay the bill. And then we'd say, okay, now we'll do business with you again. And then again, he would demand, well, I'm the most important customer. I want it right away. Well, you're 10th in line again. No, I need it right now. That's how his company operated. Okay? Being that that's the only experience I've ever had with this man and his company, you would assume that's probably how he's gone through his entire life. Okay? Does that sound like someone who you want to do business with? Or someone that you trust? Or someone that is competent to be a leader? Right? I'm just saying, that's my one experience that I had with this guy. Alright? Now, what is my opinion of him as president? I think some of the things that he's done, I agree with. And I think some of the things he's done, I completely disagree with. All right? But this isn't a politics show. So I'm not going to sit here and specifically address topics of what he's done, what he hasn't done, what he's done right, what he's done wrong. I don't think he's the worst president we've ever had. But I also certainly think he's far from the best president we've ever had. He lands somewhere in the middle. I will say this. At least he's a man of conviction. He believes certain things. He tries to get things done. He's not one of these lame ducks who just sits around and acts like he's a leader and does nothing. All right? But that could swing both ways, because if he goes too extreme, it could actually, backlash against us as a country, which has actually happened in a few of the things he's done. Now the world looks at the United States in a much more negative way. All right? And that's not good. But at the same time, at least he did something. I would much rather have someone who's taking action and trying to do things for the better of the country than someone who just sits around and does nothing, or even worse, a president who's just a tool. All right? A president who just sits there, does what he's told, because that's what his job was to begin with. That's how he got elected. Not because he actually cares, because he wants to improve life for Americans, but instead because he is a tool of a party. That has happened recently. We've had presidents like that. Okay? So I'm glad that he's not that, but at the same time, don't necessarily think that he's the smartest guy in the room, if you know what I mean. So, there you go. Every game wanted to be Witcher 3, essentially. Okay? Today, games are finding it easier to be, how can I say, to have good graphics. That's what I say. Games are finding it a lot easier to have good graphics because you could easily just license one of these engines, right? And toss that stuff into your game, and boom, you got the pretty graphics. What I think the problem is with modern games is that too many games try to just fall into a formula or a archetype of a game that already has had success so that it can make money. The games today, a lot of the times, are being produced solely to be products to be sold rather than genuinely fun games that can be considered a meaningful piece of art that adds to human culture. Because ultimately, games are art. And I think we all agree on that now. Maybe at one point, way early on, they weren't. But now I think we can all agree video games are works of art. So if that's the case, right? You need to have a game be meaningful. not a game that exists solely for the reason of printing money for a corporation. A game should not be an investment. It should be something meaningful first and profitable later. But that's not what's happening with modern games. So what's ended up happening is, oh, let's find a game that looks good because we bought the engine, right? We licensed the engine. We just slapped everything into UE5 or whatever it may be, and now it has pretty graphics, right? Let's have it have the same gameplay loop as 10 other games. Let's have it have the same elements as 20 other games. But is it meaningful? Is it actually standing out? Is it original? Does it even need to exist? This is why when I get told, Phil, didn't you hear? This other Souls-like is coming out. Oh, a Souls-like? Well, blow me away with the originality that someone would come out with a Souls-like game. Because I've totally never played one of those before. You know, with the checkpoint that looks like a bonfire or a lantern. And when you touch it, all the enemies around you respawn. And everything can kill you with like 2 hits. And there's like trees and archetypes and things that you build up over time. Different abilities, different weapons. And there's tough boss fights with big energy bars. And you know, like, totally haven't played that yet. But they keep pumping them out. Why? Because they sell and because they're profitable and they make money, so they just keep making the same crap. I don't want to play another Souls. Like, I'm burnt out on them, quite frankly. I don't care. Just like I don't want to play another Battle Royale. I don't want to do another team-based online cooperative looter shooter or looter game in general, right? I'm tired of the same formulas. But that's what's happened. These companies now have said, how do I fall in line to a category or a genre that's going to be profitable? Rather than, how do I make a good game that stands out from the pack and is meaningful and memorable, and hopefully it's good enough that then we make money on it. This is games designed around maximizing player retention using behavioral psychology techniques like variable rewards, daily incentives, and fear of missing events. Yeah, it's called the mobile game mentality. Because that's exactly how they hook you playing mobile video games, actually, is to make you want to play every day, even if you're not having a meaningful experience, because at least if you're engaged in playing every day, you get something out of it.
I need banana, tasty banana.